Paul Linn, your winner.
All right, so today, guys, we got a special and a little bit of a different guest today. We have champion professional arm wrestler Paul Linn. Well, look at those guns, dude.
Nah, it's either show muscles, not go muscles.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Glad to be on. Thank you. It's an honor.
I appreciate you coming on. Are you kidding? This is fantastic. You know what's funny? I was thinking about it. It's like arm wrestling, besides like fist fighting, is like the go-to masculine thing kids do to see who's the better man, if you will.
Right. And I wouldn't even say besides fist fighting, because you really can't get away with that anymore.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
So, and even back in the day when we used to scrap a lot and not got expelled from school, how many times at a lunchroom table you get in an argument with your buddy, say, arm wrestle me then?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, that's all it was. It's like the simplest thing that guys go to, but we'll get into later on how complex the technique really is.
And you know what's so funny about it is the two things in the world that a lot of times dudes fear the most is not like injury, pain, or whatever. So like if you associate like arm wrestling to fighting, what is the fear? Like, all right, you know, like, John says, meet me after the bus stop and we'll settle this out by the schoolyard. You're not worried about getting punched in the face. You're worried about your boys seeing you get punched in the face.
That's right.
And it's the same thing with arm wrestling. You don't want to arm wrestle at the lunchroom table when the little girl across the way you've been looking at for a while sees you get your ass busted.
It's the truth, man. It really is, man.
And you know what's so funny? That is probably the thing that deters people from arm wrestling most today when it comes to like when the professional sport is introduced into like the general public. There is an innate fear of looking bad in public. Once you get past that, you'll realize that the sport is like one of the most forgiving sports in the world, and you can do it until you're way into your late years, which should appeal to most guys in the strength world.
You're right, and you're 100% right about that. I never really thought of it from that perspective, but it's totally accurate. And one other thing that I've noticed with guys is that if I'm on ESPN or I'm at my friend's house or on ESPN or Fox Sports or whatever, and arm wrestling comes, it's stopped. We're watching it.
Yeah.
We don't know who the guys are. We don't know who the players are, but we're watching it.
Yep.
You know, which blows me away, because I don't know why it's not more mainstream.
Oh, I can tell you a bunch of reasons why.
Oh, really?
But you're 100% right. You're 100% right. So if like you're at the bar and you see two dudes start yapping, running at their mouth, and then they say, all right, arm wrestle, and they put their arm on the bar, what happens? Everybody in the bar comes over to watch. Just like a fight. It's the same thing, except it's going to be over in like 3 seconds.
Right.
But no, you're spot on. The problem with arm wrestling being mainstream is it is the most like spectator sport there is, because the arm wrestling itself can happen so quickly and be done and be so smooth. But when you have a tournament where there's 100 guys competing, that tournament takes 8 hours and there's a whole bunch of downtime between. And if you're a spectator, you're over it in like an hour. Right.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like all mainstream sports, usually, even if you go with like a UFC fight card, there's a lot of downtime in between, but there's a lot of highs in the fights.
Right.
We're only talking about 3 hours, and that's about the max you're going to deal with. Arm wrestling now, with like the World Arm Wrestling League and some of the other promotions, they're going more towards that fight card thing, which has done like huge things for like the promotability. And that's where sponsors are starting to dig in, because they see the final product. Like when you go ahead and take a good camera crew and you really highlight and edit and it's professional, then it becomes more of like, okay, this is something we can get behind. The problem is the purest arm wrestlers are still tournament-based, which tournament-based arm wrestling is very fun for the competitors, but not for their family, the spectators, or anybody else involved, because it is an all-day deal.
So when you said they've been changing it to making it more mainstream, making more endorsement friendly, what do you mean exactly?
Super matches.
That was actually one of my questions. Difference between a super match. We might as well jump right into it. What's the difference?
So tournament style arm wrestling, you're going to deal with weight classes, right? The same as you would with like traditional wrestling.
Okay.
And listen, unless you're a diehard wrestling fan, regular traditional like NCAA wrestling is not fun to watch, right?
Boring.
Because it's the same deal. It takes forever It's the same thing. Weight class is awesome, but awesome for the competitors, not for the spectators. When you talk about like super matches, now you're talking about like, okay, if you have people who are quote unquote names in the sports and different styles and blah, blah, blah. And if you match them up, like if you have the right matchmaker and you can make a match that's going to be entertaining, it's not going to be over like that. Now all of a sudden you get into something that's more spectator friendly. So most of these guys are doing in overseas PAL, they're doing top 8 and everything, and they do best of 6 guaranteed matches. Even if you lose the first 4, you still got to compete 2 more. Makes it more bettable. You can bet on it. You can bet the different odds.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's really the driver behind that. You can bet like, all right, not only am I betting this guy to win, but I'm betting him to win 6-0. And there's value on that.
Okay.
Whereas in the United States, we're predominantly doing best of 5. So if you win 3, you're done.
So now explain it, the tournament style.
Tournament style, you're going to go ahead and depends on the size of this tournament. So like currently we don't have an official nationals, but like back in the day when they had an official nationals, you could have anywhere from like 300 to 400 competitors show up. And then that would be weight class driven. And if anybody knows how brackets work, if you got 40 guys in a bracket, that is a long day and a lot of matches.
Oh, wow.
And you also have a scenario where your draw can play in, and also like your style can really favor certain opponents or certain people can like are going to be heavy favorites in a tournament style. Can they win quick? Are they explosive? You know, if it's a grinding, slow pulling type guy who's more of like, you know, a muscle joint driven guy, he's going to struggle to get through 8, 9, 10, 12 matches.
I see. Okay.
Whereas currently in the super match format, the WAL super heavyweight champion, Monster Michael Todd, is exactly that, the grinding, slow finishing endurance guy. And is why
it's perfect for him.
He's arguably 1 or 2 in the world right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before we jump into the ranking systems and whatnot, what drove you to arm wrestling? Out of all the competitive sports, what was the love of arm wrestling?
Well, I mean, I came from a football background. And I played at all levels. I played my college ball, then I played overseas a little bit and everything, and came back and started coaching because you can't really get that out of you. You want to compete and everything. And I've been involved, you know, exercise science, exercise physiology, master's degree, all that nonsense. And I love strength. So I kind of translated it back into coaching, became like a high school football coach, strength coach, blah, blah, blah. Primary employment, something else that makes more money.
Of course.
But I love that industry. I love that world. And I always loved the gym. That was my outlet.
Same way.
My 2-3 hours, that's the thing that keeps me sane.
Yeah. It's the same on the same way.
Yeah. It's therapy for real. But yeah, that's been like, since I found weightlifting, that's been my thing. And when football kind of progressed away, now I'm training high school athletes. Well, I could compete with them and stuff like that. And I wanted to, you know, we were all competitive and everything. But the bottom line is I wasn't training for anything other than just being strong or being good in the summer. So you lose, like you're competing through coaching, but you're not competing yourself. So it's fulfilling, but it's not you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's always that piece that wants to get back into competition.
I know the feeling. Believe me. See the trophies behind me. I always tell my wife, maybe. And then I go.
No, you know what? It's that it is like there's certain people who have a primal innate need to compete and combat.
Right.
And if you're in any form of contact sport or anything like that, you need that. And like you said early on, I mean, if arm wrestling is considered a martial art by a lot of people because it is one-on-one combat type sport, and it's hard to beat it any other way. And to be honest with you, like we talked about before we went online, you and I are no spring chickens anymore, right? So I found the sport at 35 when there was really nothing else I could be competitive in that I would consider a true sport. I'm not ready for golf yet. I'll do that when everything breaks down, maybe. No, but
I ain't doing golf. Forget it.
Yeah, that's what it was, really. That's really what it was.
Maybe mini golf. That's about it.
No, I get bored on that.
So you played professional football?
Yeah, not at
overseas,
like,
though.
Yeah, not at like the NFL level. We're talking about overseas in the European League.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what made you stop?
It didn't make sense financially. So
Oh,
that's all it
okay.
was. I mean,
So
like, yeah, the match.
once you think, I mean, once you
Mm-hmm.
think professional football, you think millions of dollars.
No,
Nah, not in
no, no,
Europe.
no, no, no. And the reality of it is you got to be real with yourself. You know what I mean? Like when it's all
Yeah.
said and done, like, what is this going to take me somewhere, or should I finish this master's degree?
Okay.
You know,
Right, 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 right,
and
right.
then like, oh, okay, I can go back next year. Should I go back and make $700 a week, or should I
Oh,
go
was that
start a
bad?
career? Yeah, and I mean,
Wow.
you got to think though. Like a lot of people think that like arena ball, like arena two, and things like that, that people are making money. You're not making money. You're losing money.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're losing money.
Well,
Canada,
I
in Canada, you can make a decent living.
right.
But when it comes to this, most people, if you're going that route, you're going that route to just continue for the love of the sport, and to see the world, or you are desperately chasing that last chance NFL opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
It's
if you
like that movie Bull Durham, right?
yeah, if you chase it too long, you wake up 30 and you won't retire ever.
I hear
So
what you're
there's a
saying. Right, right.
really, really thin line. And I've dealt with a lot of guys who've had to make those tough decisions. And I've always said, like, you football is not the only way to make money. The world, especially if you grow up kind of, um, less privileged,
Mm-hmm.
society and your world would tell you there's only a few ways to make money, and only some of them are legal, and they all involve some form of sports.
Right.
And the real world and the reality of it is that is absolutely not the case.
Mm-hmm. Right, right,
So
right.
lessons learned.
So how old were you when you finally decided football wasn't doing it anymore?
Oh, mid 20s.
And then when did
Yeah.
you jump into arm wrestling?
Mid 30s.
Oh,
It took
35, you
yeah,
said.
it took 10 years. It took 10 years for I didn't know what it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
AMC came out with Game of Arms. If you haven't watched that series, it was like it was like a reality television show, and it was one
Okay.
of their highest grossing things at the time, and it was super entertaining. And I remember watching it with my wife, and
Mm.
she's like, "What the hell are you watching? Get this off the television!" And I was like, "No, honey, this is awesome, and I
Yeah.
promise you, I can beat some of these guys. I can beat these guys."
Yeah.
And just looked up a tournament,
So you
and
just jumped right in, and you just jumped right into a tournament.
yeah.
No training, no nothing.
I mean, I did. I looked up some Devin Larratt videos, and I got myself some
Yeah.
fat grips and did some wrist curls.
Okay. And how did you
Yeah,
do at that first tournament?
I won the amateur classes, both arms, and then I jumped into pros and lost. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
took third in the pros, and
Okay.
it was like a turning point. I had to make a decision. Like I thought, in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm either going to be bad as hell, or you know what
Yeah.
I mean, or I'm not meant to do this. And I also was under the belief, not understanding arm wrestling technique or anything like that, that if you lose to a person, that's because that person is physically stronger than you, and you will
Mhm.
never then be able to beat them. So both of the gentlemen who beat me in that tournament, I've since beaten plenty of
Right.
times,
Right, right.
and that, it was a scenario where they were both super heavyweights, and it was an open weight tournament,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I was a little bit lighter, and I'm like, but in my mind at the time, I'm like, I'm hit with all these things, like, all
Hmm.
right, is this something I want to do? Or, and now, tweaked something in my shoulder, and now I can't bench right and everything. And I'm like, do I really want to do this?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, made the decision to go ahead and find another tournament before I even started practicing again. Did pretty well and linked up with some people, and then the rest is history. Now I haven't stopped practicing since. So
Well, that's what you said about the strength not being a factor. I'm sure it comes into play a little bit, but it's obvious because I saw a video of you arm wrestling like one of the greatest powerlifters in the world today, Leroy Walker,
yeah,
and he couldn't even budge you. I think the guy benches close to 700, right? And
he
he does.
inclines like 720, incline raw.
Mamma mia.
Yeah, he's a weirdo. He's a total
Wow.
weirdo, and like strict curl, like world champion, like freakishly. If Leroy wanted to commit time and commit effort and wanted to beat me,
He could. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
could coach him to beat me within a couple years.
Right, 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 right.
But
But
it's just
I
it's about,
watched
dude,
it.
what do you want to do with,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Where do you want to provide that energy? I understand.
Right. And listen, it's awesome. I love to go to the gym and move big weights. I love to curl
Yeah.
heavy. I love to bench heavy. I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I don't love, but I have to do, is go to the gym and go like this a million times. Like
Really?
this. Yeah. I mean, here's where it is. It's everything from the fingertips back.
Okay.
The most important, like if you were to like rate all muscle groups for arm wrestling, you would start at the tip of your finger as priority one, and you would work your way back. All of this means nothing until all of this is secure. And if you watch that video and I'm just kind of controlling him, that's all through my hand.
Really?
That's all hand. That's all finger containment, wrist flexion, pronation, and supination. That's all it is.
Now, how do you like, if somebody like me, for argument's sake, wants to decide that I want to do arm wrestling,
Yep.
where does somebody like myself go to find somebody to train me to do arm wrestling, and what kind of training does that entail?
Well, I mean, Devin Larratt has an app out right now. Hey, anybody who's tuning in, interested in this little plug for Devin's app, it's called ArmBet.
What is it?
ArmBet, ARMBET.
Okay.
It's almost like, and for lack of a better description, it's like a dating site for arm wrestlers. It basically takes your location and you can put a perimeter to find other arm wrestlers because it's obscure, right? But if I go travel for work, I can get on that ArmBet app and release my location, and I'll find 20 arm wrestlers around me or whatever if I want to go practice. So that's the easiest. Yeah, that's the easiest, and that's growing the sport huge. Devin is growing the sport huge. So
yeah, we'll get to him.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it. If you're interested in arm wrestling, just get on Facebook. All right. And I know a lot of social media platforms have surpassed Facebook, but Facebook is the arm wrestling repository. Get on there, look up every group, look up arm wrestling training, arm wrestling discussion, look me up. You know what I mean? Send me a DM and I'll link you in with whoever you need to be linked in with. But if you want online training, there's tons of like pros, elite world level pros who will do that for you. And the community is really open. Like I get hit up constantly for programs and training tips.
Right.
And people are like, well, let me pay you. I don't want no money, man. I have a generic split that I give out. I'll explain it to you. It is what it is. So hit me up.
Right. So as far as amateur and professional, like in bodybuilding, you have to gain the rank of amateur. You have to win a pro card. Whereas in boxing, you're amateur until you feel you're ready, and then you kind of pay to be a professional. How does it work in arm wrestling?
Oh man, it's like both of that. It's like, and it's like none of that. So that's a problem, actually.
Okay.
So certain leagues in the past, old school leagues, it was exactly what you said. If you're a novice arm wrestler, you need to take 3 first places. And then you move on to pro, and you can never go back.
Right.
Whereas that style has kind of been like left behind because you got different levels of tournaments. Like if I could take first place at 10 tournaments and then come to a big one, like, one where we host here in Pennsylvania, we host Keystone States, and it'll be 400 entries. You come to that tournament amateur, and if you place top 3, you probably deserve to be a pro.
Right.
But that's different than going to Joe's bar and competing in a class that has 4 dudes who never arm wrestled before.
Okay, I got you.
So it's almost like we're in a scenario at our events where if we know the puller and he tries to pull down, we're going to highly recommend that he doesn't, because it doesn't look good for him or us. But it's very gray. It's very, very gray. And I do think based on the size of the tournament and who shows up in the tournament, there's certain guys that fit in different places. But I'll tell you what, if you're a journeyman arm wrestler, for like a novice arm wrestler who kind of struggled his way up, that jump between novice and pro or amateur and pro can be really tough because you might not win for a long time.
I see.
Yeah. So there's guys that come in with really, really natural, innate skill levels that'll progress really fast. And then there's other guys that it might take 15 years or whatever before they get to that elite pro level. But the beauty of it is I wholeheartedly believe that almost every human being has the ability to be a good arm wrestler.
Really?
Yeah. Because you can look at the different body types, the different athletic levels, the different backgrounds, and of elite arm wrestlers, and it varies so much. There are thin guys, thin wrists, small hands, big hands, construction guys, know, all kinds of people who have gotten themselves to a really elite level.
Okay. So is the WAL like the big wig? Is it the big guys on the block?
In the United States, yeah. I mean, it's the WAL and the PAL, which is the Professional Arm Wrestling League. They're based out of Poland.
Okay.
I would say that when it comes to that tournament and that promotion, because they are in Eastern Europe, that they do have the better arm wrestlers. The United States has tremendous arm wrestlers, but often we don't travel as much because there's less incentive.
Mhm.
And the WAL, the way it's presented, the production quality and the entertainment value is quite a bit higher.
Okay.
So it tends to, it's done well over
I see.
here.
Yeah, the Eastern European athletes, as far as like the power,
Mhm,
uh, the power, like powerlifting,
mhm.
yeah, strong, what is it, strongman,
Yep.
arm wrestling, they seem to dominate severely. Like
They
the
value it.
Lithuanians, the Polish, the where is the mountain from? I forget, Iceland.
Mhm.
They seem to just. I don't know if it's like Viking bloodline, but they seem to just
They
dominate in those.
I think that there's genetics involved to it,
Yeah, it's
like in
got
it,
it.
but like there definitely is genetics involved in it, but it's also values. So like when you look at like the Eastern European bloc, because that's where we're talking about like Poland, Russia,
Mhm. Right.
Kazakhstan, like these places, even Turkey, like all these places over here are Bulgaria. They're tremendous in these strength sports because from a young age they value that. We value
Oh, I see.
basketball, we value football, different
That's
things
right.
like
That's
that.
right. That's right.
And the United States competes in the power level, like because we have a few elite guys. But I
Mhm.
think over there it's more like a lifestyle,
Mhm.
which and thus over there, in the country of Georgia, their elite arm wrestlers are subsidized. That's what they do. They are professional arm wrestlers. They are paid by their government. That's
Really?
what they do. Oh yeah, yeah. We don't have that here.
No, definitely
Now,
not.
now there are three. There are three, I would say, human beings in North America who feed their family solely off the sport of arm wrestling, but
Really?
they don't do it just from competition. They do it from social media,
Mm.
event promotion, things like that. There
I
are
see.
three
Okay.
who are successful
I see. Okay.
when
And
it
I'll
comes to
assume one of
adjusting.
them is Devin Larrett, if it is.
Yeah,
That's how you
yeah,
pronounce his name?
yep.
I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. He didn't bring it mainstream, but he definitely made it more popular.
He did bring it mainstream, and I don't think he meant to do it, but he did it. He's got
I
charisma. The
Yeah, he
video,
has the Floyd Mayweather, Muhammad Ali, Hulk Hogan element, like larger than life.
he's a different dude. He's just different. And like, if you haven't seen Devin Larrett, and if you ever like, I mean, if any of this piques your interest, just go look this guy's channel up. It's Devin Larrett, Larratt,
Mhm.
or whatever. Look him up. The video I think that really triggered all of it was him pulling half Thor Bjornsson, the mountain.
Yeah.
There was a
Yeah.
video of that,
I
and
did
that
see
went
that. Yeah.
super weirdo viral.
Mhm.
And then there was a lot of subsequent videos, but like obviously now we have some things out there. If you haven't seen Arm Wrestling TV on YouTube, just look up Arm Wrestling TV and Schoolboy Arm Wrestler.
Mhm.
That's my buddy Alex, and his brother also named Alex.
Really?
But yeah, Schoolboy is mega viral, um, and that type of content has really helped put us on the map.
Okay. Is he as good as he as is he as good in the sport as he is a talker? You know?
Who, Devin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, he is.
That
So
Devin
he
is, yeah, Devin is the man.
so
Devin
he
is
is a Floyd
mhm.
Mayweather. He talks and backs it up.
Yeah, and you know what, and Devin, I think when you talk about the talker, I think you might be thinking of Travis Bajan, who is one of the other three.
No,
He's the
I thought it
mouth of
was.
the South. He's the
Oh,
mouth of
is
the
it somebody
South.
worse? Oh,
Yeah, Devin is still kind of like in the positive light. Travis has been a world champion. If you haven't seen Travis Bajan, you read about Travis Bajan Unfiltered on YouTube, but
Devin
you just
was
got
the
to
guy
type
who
the name in.
tried arm wrestling. He was on some morning show and he arm wrestled. Who was
Shaq.
it? Who?
Who? He was on a bunch of stuff. Devin was arm wrestled Shaq on one of TNT and everything else.
Yeah,
But
he's the guy
Travis
that,
was on the Best Damn Sports Show, if that's what you're thinking about.
and he was the guy that arm wrestled. Who was it?
Oh,
I'm
I'm not
thinking of
sure.
the one of the Giants. What was the guy with the space between his teeth? Michael Strahan.
Probably that would have probably been Travis. I don't know.
Really? Oh,
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
then
I
I'm
don't know.
getting
But
mixed
anyway,
up.
Travis is the one. Travis is the one that would remind you of Floyd Mayweather.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Devin's a Canadian dude who would be more like this is the household name. This is everybody. This is who everybody wants to root for. He's the one who's taking on Monster Michael Todd for this match in
So
Dubai.
he's the lovable type.
He is. I don't know if he's lovable, but I don't know. It's what I guess whatever you like. But nah, yeah, those two are like kind of the faces.
Right.
And
Okay.
they brought us really kind of to the next level. And then we're being ushered in by, like I said, arm wrestling TV and guys like Schoolboy. I mean, Schoolboy has become a household name. That there has been so many viral
I
videos
know
of
who
this
he
guy.
is because he's very young.
Yep.
And there's
Yep.
also another guy with like one huge arm
Yeah.
and then some
Well,
other.
there's two of them.
Oh, really?
There's Oleg Zoke, who is like 176 pounds and has like an extra tendon in his left arm, and his left arm's like weird and like he's unbelievable. And then there's another dude, I can't remember his full name, but they call him Hellboy. He's from Germany. He's the one who has the double-sized arm.
Yeah, I thought so.
But Oleg is the one who is the more legitimate arm wrestler, like arguably the best ever left arm at any weight.
Really?
But you'd have to look him up. He has like an extra. There's something going on. Super extra.
Yeah, I've seen him before, but I don't concentrate on the names,
Yep.
So as far as rankings go, how does that work? And where do you stand? Where do you lie in the rankings? I know you're a middleweight.
Yeah. I mean, the rankings are, nobody's ever going to do the rankings right. So there's a couple ways to do it. You can do it like the Australian system where it's all points based, but you need to have enough data for it to be valid, and that can take years for it to stabilize. Or you can go off of opinion 100%, which, as long as the people doing the rankings are squared away with the sport, that's probably the most accurate. Or you can kind of combine the two where you have an opinion based list and then you beat a person and you plug them ahead. So as far as that goes, In the Hook rankings has me at number 2 in North America. That's based off of, that has in middleweights, but
Yeah, the middleweight.
There hasn't been a lot of competition over the past year, so that all of that could have changed. That whole list makes it arguably doesn't mean anything until we start arm wrestling again. So who knows where I'm at.
Yeah, well, it's sounds pretty good to me. I don't know. It's strange because you would think. I mean, again, I don't know much about it, but you would think something like if the WAL is the big gun in North America, you would think they would set standards and rules, right? And say, okay, let's make it rigid, let's make it structured. And why don't they do that? I mean, the only other sport that I know that's all kind of messed up like that is boxing.
Yeah.
But everyone, football, basketball, even bodybuilding, and has the IFBB, and this is how it goes, and so on and so forth. And
well, that's a great point. And I think the problem with that is the WAL might be the big dog when it comes to promotions, money, sponsorships, everything else, but they're super match format. They're not tournament based. So in order for them to do anything like that, they can't really dictate anything to tournament based arm wrestling, which is everything that goes on other than them. So like all these other tournaments, all these other national championships, state championships, they're going around tournament based. So WAL is not dabbling in the tournaments anymore. They're doing what's lucrative for them, as far as getting sponsorships, which is creating a product that can be marketed to sponsors based off of entertainment. So thus they have kind of lost credibility in that aspect.
Really?
Whether it's correct or not, they've made the rules loose enough where the matches will be entertaining. If you go rigid on everything, you wind up with the polar opposite. You see a bunch of people fouling out, and nobody wants to like pay for this, BR Live event and see everybody foul out, nobody get pinned, which quite often happens overseas.
Sounds like arm wrestling needs somebody like a Dana White or Vince McMahon to like bring it all together.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great
because it doesn't, it sounds like it's a show,
It most certainly is.
Yeah,
it's all over the place. It's all over the place. And I mean, I don't think any arm wrestler in their right mind, regardless if they're an original purist or like a new school guy, is going to tell you that it's not. It is a show. It's all over the place. You got to figure out where you fit in.
Right. Okay, so let's say there's a huge tournament or a super match, and Poland enters. How do you go about training about that? How do you go about training for and preparing for it?
If it's a super match and I know my opponent, I figure out probably 3 different options I have, and then I train the components needed.
Okay.
So I got plan A, plan B, and then last ditch effort. And I figure out what component I think I have an advantage at and what component I think my opponent has an advantage at, train that. And then I figure, all right, what is my last ditch effort and what, in general so if it's a super match, I'm training very, very specifically. Okay. If it's a big tournament, I am focused more on my totality, like overall strength. What is my weight? Do I have to cut weight? How am I going to make my weight cut? What's my nutrition going to be like? What is my lead up to this going to be? my mental more than anything. And in that instance, if it's a tournament, I'm training a little bit more fast twitch stuff, band related. I want to be fast. I want to be twitchy so I can
Yeah.
win quick.
Which one do you think you're better at?
Oh, I honestly probably tournament because
Really?
yeah, I mean, I feel like I can be really effective, but I don't have as much experience with super matches. Like I've had a bunch of them, but like, I feel like naturally the way my competitive drive is and the way I tune in and
Mhm.
my ability to be fast, and my versatility makes me a tricky out in a tournament. I also feel as though if I were to take a loss, and which I have quite a bit, to somebody and go B side and
Mhm.
come back to them, I have the opportunity because of versatility to still win that match. I'm not a
Okay.
one trick pony. So that bodes well for super matches also,
Right.
but I don't know. And endurance can play a role in both. And
Right.
I'm fairly decent when it comes to that as well.
So how many pro tournaments have you won, or have you won any?
I don't know. A
That many?
lot. A lot, man.
Really?
A
Wow.
lot. Yeah. Yeah. I
That's it.
stopped.
That's a
I don't keep. I'm not a trophy guy and stuff, but I have like boxes and boxes and boxes of them.
that's amazing, man.
No, it happens, but you got to think though. You know, like if you're preparing for a bodybuilding meet, right?
Mhm.
You can only do so many. Like you can't bodybuild every weekend, right? I
Right.
mean, unless you're doing. It depends on what you're doing.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
if you are arm wrestling, you can arm wrestle every weekend. And there's a tournament somewhere every single weekend. So
I
if you
see.
want to do it, hey, I can run in there in the pros. And like if I weigh 198, I can pull the 198, the 242. I can pull the supers, both right and left hands, and I can
Right.
walk away with 6 trophies, which
So
I'll do.
how do you do it with you are a football coach in high school,
Mhm,
right? You're married,
mhm,
you have children,
mhm.
right? Where do you find the time? You must have a very, very understanding wife.
I double dip a lot. I double dip a lot. I
What do you
mean,
mean?
so like meaning my primary job allows me fitness time. So I get 45 minutes a day that I can pair up with my lunch and I can train during that time. I also run a strength program directly after work, which can allow me to do double days. And arm wrestling itself really only requires 1 day of commitment a week outside of that, which I would be doing those things anyway.
Mhm.
So I have 1 day a week that I'm going to dedicate 3, 4 hours to with a bunch of dudes holding hands and sweating and stuff.
Right,
But
right,
when
right,
it
right.
comes to like other sports, like I know my wife knows she wants to kill me more during football season than she wants to kill me when
Okay.
I arm wrestle. But the flip side to that too is, and I would say this to anybody like who says, "Oh, how can you find the time to do that?" I could never find that time. Come on, bro. Priorities.
Yeah, it's like
What do
me.
you
Yeah, yeah,
value? Where
yeah.
you gonna put it?
Yeah,
Where
I
there's a
know.
will, there's a way, right?
People
If
say
you
the same thing. I know. I see people
if
say
you
the same thing to me. I'm a sewer
right,
worker in New York City.
yeah,
I'll do electrical work on the job. I'm married. I go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week for like 2 hours, and then
yeah.
I do this. And people are like, "How do you find
How
that?"
you
I'm
do
like,
it?
"You just do it, man.
Yeah, you find a way. Where there's a
You
will, there's a
just
way. If
yeah,
you if what you want to do
yeah."
doesn't have a timeline on or a time requirement, not time duration,
Hmm.
but you have to do it at a certain time,
Hmm.
then there's always a way. So
Right.
like,
Right.
oh wait, how can you train for arm wrestling?
Hmm.
Get up at 5 in the morning. What's wrong with that?
That's right. You're 100
What do you
percent
want to
right.
do?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get that. Well, see, I get that with a lot of people coming in. Like, how do you figure it out? But I'm just like, if you really want it, if you get you get bit by that bug and you want to do
Hmm.
it, you're gonna find a way, right?
Yeah, I don't have the time is the biggest excuse for everybody to not do
Yeah,
something. That's basically
I
it. You
don't
know
want
what
to
I mean?
hear that. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear it all the time at work. Guys are like, how do they grab their stomachs to go, John, how do I lose this? And my first answer is stop eating, you fat. That's my first answer. And then I get serious. I'm like, well, what do you want? And they're like, I don't
Yeah,
have the time. And I'm like, I
yeah,
don't know what to tell you, man. I
yeah.
don't.
And then you want to come back to the first answer and be like, yeah, I meant that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I can't tell you. There was one
Nah.
guy at work who was a really nice guy. His name is Joe, and he was almost proud of his stomach. He would walk
Yeah.
stomach first, right? Great. He actually retired. Great guy. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I think I gave him 3 or 4 diets because his doctor told him he was getting too fat. And they must have either all went in the garbage or were deleted on his phone because he never
Buddy,
did a damn thing.
how much does that bother you? And be honest, like when somebody asks you for a program
Yeah.
or a diet, and here the diet's the worst because they want you to write their meals out
Oh,
like you're gonna sit down and tell them every ingredient and every
yeah.
spice to put in their meal for like the next year.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you know that if you had spent the week that it would take to do that, they wouldn't follow it anyway.
Yeah. No, they won't. And the worst
Horrible.
part is the absolute beginner.
Mhm.
Because why the absolute beginner bothers me is because you don't need me. You could just Google it.
Yeah.
Any diet's going to help because you're a slob.
Right.
You
Right.
know, it's unbelievable.
And you know what? That sounds bad, but like that's
The
like
truth.
real. Like,
It really is.
don't act like you don't know how to do this stuff. Like, I don't know how to train. Google it and then go to the gym.
YouTube is your
And
best friend.
anything that you do beyond not doing anything is going to benefit you.
Yeah.
After you've been doing that for 3 or 4 months and you don't know where to go next, then hit me up.
Exactly. Right. And I tell them, they're like, oh, I want to buy this machine and put it in the house. I'm like, your wife's going to hang clothes on. It's a waste.
Yeah.
And then I tell them, join Planet Fitness. It's $10 a month and you get to see girls.
Yeah.
At the worst case scenario, you're on the treadmill for an hour just looking at girls in yoga pants.
Yeah, I mean, and don't they give you like pizza on Wednesdays or something?
Like if you can't motivate yourself to right. Yeah. If you can't motivate yourself to do that, then then I can't help you, man.
I'm a believer. You know what? My hat's off to everybody who can train at home.
Yeah.
I cannot train at home. The gym is a place for me.
Yeah, me too, man.
I gotta go.
During COVID, it sucked. I made my shed a little gym and it sucked. Yeah. Man. You know what it is, I think, with guys, it's camaraderie. Like I like going to the gym and seeing the boys.
Yep.
And if I'm squatting heavy or whatever, and I don't squat as heavy as I used to anymore or whatnot, they're right there going, yeah, get it, so on and so forth. It's camaraderie, and you see boys and you hit it up and you spot, what are you doing, so on and so forth.
Right.
And I feed off the energy, as I'm sure to you. The people that say, oh, I love going to the gym when it's empty, I'm like, really? I can't do that. That sucks.
Right. Yeah. It's supposed to be a place that you can flip a switch.
Right.
So
right.
Whatever it is, and everybody has their own environment. I've trained in a bunch of different environments.
Yeah.
But I know that the last environment that I want to train at is anything associated to my home.
Yeah. You're right.
It's walk through doors.
You're 100% right, man. It's an escape. It is my, some guys go to the bar or play cards.
Right.
I'm in the gym, and it's like it's therapy. It really is.
Yeah. I tell my wife all the time. I'm like, I know you don't like me. Like, well, I spent a little bit extra time this week or whatever, but I got goals, and there's 100 worse hobbies and things that you could use as an opiate. Than this. So pick it. You can call it a vice. You can call it. I prefer to call it a positive addiction.
No, it is a positive addiction. Anybody who compares this to smoking crack is an idiot. Yeah, I used to have a guy like that. Isn't the gym an addiction? I'm like, okay. What's funny is my oldest brother's a contractor, and he's been a contractor. So he used to have this guy named Joe that used to work for him, and his addiction was the scratch offs.
Yeah.
My brother's an electrical contractor, so because he bids against union guys, he has to pay prevailing wage in New York City. And prevailing wage in New York City is like $54 an hour.
Nice.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
This guy would spend his whole paycheck on scratch offs. He would just be in the corner deli, just
jeez.
And it was just like, I can't tell you how many times he borrowed money and my brother had to bail him out. And
that's tragic.
And he wouldn't borrow.
I mean, that's not even that's like the worst way to gamble. If you're going to gamble, there's a million better ways.
Yeah, at least if you go to Atlantic City or Las Vegas, if you gamble all your money away, they give you a free room. I don't get it.
Play something that's like 49 to 51% odds, not these things that never win.
It's just unbelievable. I see them. I see them all the time. And there's that one, and I forgot the other one where the digital ball falls on the number.
The power of what
quick draw. That's what it is. It's the same thing. They stand there and they just watch. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, but I just wanted actually 2 more questions. The weight divisions. How do the weight divisions run? Because the weight divisions in boxing and the weight divisions in bodybuilding and the weight divisions in power is completely different.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's all over the place. And it's, once again, you like you said, it's a show. It's up to the promoter. So WAL had the weight classes usually suit the promotion. So the traditional weight classes that you would do, if you go to Worlds, are kilogram based. And if you go to Worlds, because there's going to be so many people competing, it's 5 kilogram increments. So you can do your conversions. It's all kinds of weird pound numbers. Yeah. But it's 5 kilogram increments.
which is
So
not much.
basically 12-pound difference or whatever it is, or 11-pound difference
Wow,
between.
that's a lot of weight divisions.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. And
know,
it goes all the way down to like 132 to like, whatever.
and I'm
Past
assuming they also
242.
have. I'm assuming they have youth and
Mm-hmm.
women and masters
Yep.
and
Which is
a
why
whole.
which is why a big tournament is a nightmare.
Oh God.
It's a nightmare.
So it's
And
nothing like Over the Top. Nothing.
well, Over the Top was a nightmare. The way hey, there it is right there. There it is. Right there, Over the
Oh
Top.
yeah, that's right.
Uh,
Whatever happened to Bull Hurley? I don't think he ever did anything after that movie.
I don't think so. Well, that's because he was an arm wrestler.
Oh, was he
Bull
really?
Hurley was an actual arm wrestler.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's
I
one thing
forget his
about
actual
Stallone.
name.
He always
Yeah.
took the real.
Oh, every person that you see arm wrestle in that movie, aside from Stallone, is an arm wrestler. I think.
Really? Oh, I see. I
Yes.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's one thing
Yeah. I
about
didn't
Stallone
either.
in his movies. He puts like the real dudes in there instead of actors.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, he did that with all of his originals.
yeah. His movies. Like, if I don't want to go to the gym, I do one of two
Yeah.
things. I pick a pre-workout or I put a Rocky scene on.
Yeah. I'm a
know?
fan. I was a fan from day one. That's not why I started arm wrestling. I loved Over the Top. I thought it was
Oh
cool.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I didn't that wasn't my
Yeah,
my
but him
favorite.
and Robert Loggia, who was Frank from Scarface,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was such a and Terry Funk. Do you remember was his bodyguard? Terry Funk was a
Yeah.
professional wrestler. That was so funny.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, the only other thing I want to ask you is the strap. How does that work? And when is it thrown in?
That's everything, man. That's everything.
What do you mean?
If you are not, it's everything. His strap is everything. You're not going to find an elite arm wrestler who does not prefer the strap. There's only few. There's very, very few. And it's usually those guys who have like mega hands and like huge, like bear paws that want to arm wrestle outside the strap and hang on to fingers and do things like that. But really, elite arm wrestling comes down to understanding that strap because it changes everything.
Okay.
So people will say like the strap tells no lies, but that's the biggest lie in the game. All the strap does is lie. When you learn the finer points and how to manipulate it, it's totally different than just grabbing a person's hand and have these fingers. Now all of a sudden you have like different points of contact that you can engage prior to the go in the setup. It does favor an arm wrestler's arm. So like the sheer side pressure, the brute strength. Pretty much anybody who is brute stronger, but their hand might not be as big or as good, is going to want the strap to kind of negate some things. But even that said, there are all kinds of manipulations. And that's the biggest thing you'll see different in the novice and amateur classes moving towards the pro. You'll see the novice and amateur classes, no one will attempt to get the strap. They won't attempt to slip. That's not part of their game. They'll hang on and arm wrestle. And a lot of times, if you try and hang on to a guy, you're going to lose rather than making them hang on to you or have an anchor point. So that's definitely the next level. You're going to see, like, if you watch the WAL at all, you're going to see almost every match end in the strap.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Like, cause after I found you and Devin and the other guy and so on and so forth, that was mainstreaming and watching, these things are all new to me. And right away you go to, if you're our generation, you go to Over the Top, and the strap it was supposed to be so dramatic.
Oh, they have a big leather thing that's not what it is. Just imagine like a small nylon belt. It's
yeah. That's it was
that's actually a good point. That they overdrive.
They really did.
The heck out of
so
that.
You like when you see the strap, like as a regular dude, like watching, you're like, oh, the strap is coming out, right?
Yeah.
But you're like, no, that's every arm wrestling match.
Yeah, it's everyone.
That's everyone.
But it is an important factor for sure. Big time important factor.
I guess all these little things, people don't think it's a lot of technique, but it's got to be, because
it is.
I've seen
speed chess. It is.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah,
it is. And that was one of my biggest progressions. So like in my mind, I'm meathead mode. I'm arm wrestling this guy. I'm going to beat him because I am stronger than him.
Right.
Period. I go to the gym. There's no way that guy's stronger than me, or there's no way that guy's faster than me.
Right.
And the reality of it is you can lose to a guy and not even be in the match. And then you can come back and adjust and change something, and he won't even be in the match. And that to me is the most addicting part. What's mundane about it is doing all the weird little movements in the gym. I'm in the gym here. I'm the guy here. I go from my incline press and I'm trying to move weight and everything. Now I'm over here in the cables doing this. with a little with a karate belt and looking like a weirdo. You know what I mean? But those mundane things that I really don't enjoy are what gives you those connection points.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is regardless of all those connection points, is the dexterity and the understanding
Mm-hmm.
of all these different moves and counter moves. And when me starting out, I watch arm wrestling, I'm like, it's just who's stronger or who's faster.
Right. And the average person that says the same thing.
Until you do it. And then that's really what will get you addicted.
Right.
Is the understanding that, okay, I lost to that person, but all I need to do is figure out how to beat them.
Right.
And then
no, is there like like boxing, you know, there was sparring. Is there like a practice kind of thing you do
Absolutely.
before? Yeah.
And like before, so yeah, like the training aspect is really, really unique and interesting because, like, you know, we started like when I started out, there was no arm wrestling. I'm from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. There was no arm wrestling in Central PA really at all. Closest arm wrestlers maybe an hour away, 2 hours. And I was like, you know what? I'm driving 2 hours. I was driving to Connecticut 5 hours, doing all this different stuff just to go practice.
Right.
And I was like, all right, got to build a team. Started building a team, getting new guys involved. You know, we grew it and we got a nice big team, and the whole area is permeated now. That's awesome. Okay. That being said, when I'm trying to progress to that, like if I have a big event, I'll train with my guys, but every other week I have to go somewhere else. And I have to go with somebody who can bust my ass or somebody who can stretch me over.
Okay. It's just
or
like
somebody
else.
who,
right.
But I like, depending on who or where I'm competing, I'm going to pick different training partners who have attributes that can expose me there. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Like you can be successful just training for arm wrestling and never arm wrestling.
Okay.
You can be successful, but if you want to get to that super like top level, you got to kind of build yourself a team, and you also need to compete with other elite arm wrestlers. You have to, and you have to spar with them. Okay. And it has to be structured. It can't just be like, all right, we're just trying to pin each other all the time. Right. There has to be technique exchange. There has to be drilling.
Okay. So if I when I put this video together, and if I put as the title Paul Linn, number 2 ranked arm wrestler in the WAL, is that going to piss anybody off?
Well, yeah, that will. First off, it will piss them off. Yeah. First off, the rankings that I was referring to wasn't WALs. North American rankings. WAL doesn't have a ranking system. Okay. I think a lot of people would say that I'm in line for that title shot, but that's totally subjective to what they decide to do for whatever reason they want to do it.
How should I frame it so it's not to piss people off? Because when I interviewed Rita West, I said, I'm just going to put the strongest person in the world, strongest girl in the world. And she's going to go, she goes, you're going to make some girls mad. I'm like,
listen, this is your video. You can do whatever you want. I am all for clickbait.
I don't want guys calling you up like, calling you out.
I don't, whatever. It's not my fault. You made the video. But yeah, Leroy Walker, we were at Michael Todd's and he was like, here, let's do this grip thing or something. And it was like this weird like handshake thing. We just squeezed as hard as we could till somebody gave up.
Yeah.
And then afterwards he was like, all right, I'm going to tag this video, the number 2 arm wrestler in the world. And I'm like,
did you get any for it?
No, I said, do whatever you want to do, but that's not true. I don't know if he actually did it. I don't know. All right. But I get it. All
right. So I'm going to do that because I think you explained away that it's nothing but just clickbait.
Yeah, listen, it is what it is.
Paul, Mr. Paul Linn, I really appreciate you doing this, man. And this podcast has really changed a lot of things. And the one thing about this podcast has shown me the people you admire, you figure out whether they're real good, generally like sincerely good people, or whether they're just a piece of crap. And I've run across a couple of guys that were like, yeah, I'll do your podcast if you pay me.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, really, dude, like if you need the money that bad, I'll just send you a check. Like,
listen, if you ever want arm wrestlers, I don't think anybody's gonna be asking. We're like, sure.
Yeah.
We get to promote arm wrestling?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then somebody like yourself was like, yeah, name the place, time. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
and,
no problem.
Like I said, I've gotten a lot of people like that, but I've gotten a couple of people that were like, well, I had one guy tell me, well, I got limited time unless you want to compensate me. It's like it's so funny because when I said this to Rita West, when I interviewed her, I said, what's great about this is you get to interview the people you want to interview, the people that you admire.
Yeah.
And then you figure out whether they're an idiot or not, you know? and like I said, so somebody like you, sincere, and I appreciate you taking the time and doing this,
Listen,
man.
I admire you for doing what you're doing,
I know I'm not
because
doing anything.
whatever, you're taking your time, you're asking questions, you're booking people to interview, you're editing videos, you're uploading them, and you're promoting other people, other sports. And I think I'm assuming pretty much everything you do is in the strength world.
Yeah,
Which there can never be enough promotion
I
of the
agree.
folks in
I
that
agree.
industry, because even at the highest level, folks in the strength and fitness world are still not getting
They're not making a lot of money.
no,
Unless, like you said, unless they're hustling on their own, they're not making a lot of money.
right. So what you're doing right now is for a better cause. And listen, you taking your time out to promote arm wrestling as a whole, I mean, I think the whole community would thank you.
I appreciate it, man.
It's greatly appreciated.
Oh, thank you so much. So what I'm going to do is, after I'm editing this out and so on and so forth, I'll send you the link, and you can put it on your Instagram, whatever you got, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Send me whatever. Let me help. I mean, you tell me how you want the links to be shared. Think about it. My YouTube channel isn't like great, but I definitely link you up and do whatever I can do to help.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine with me, and I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't care. You put it up wherever you want. Your social media.
We'll throw them on Facebook and everything. Get them.
Yeah, right. I do the same thing. Well, listen, I appreciate, once again, man. I really appreciate
Glad
it.
to.
And
my honor.
Do you have any? Oh, thanks a lot, dude. Do you have any tournaments coming up in the tri-state area, PA, Jersey?
The tri-state area, the Keystone State Championship in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, my hometown.
Which is when?
June 26th. It is undoubtedly going to be the biggest tournament in the Northeast, for sure. We did 400 entries before COVID. We did 325 outdoor event in the midst of COVID last year. We will do better this year.
June 26, 2021. And it's called, what is it called?
The Keystone State Championship. You can find it on Facebook just by typing that in there. This is the fourth annual.
I'm going to make sure that I put that Facebook link in the comment section.
So and you're in New York, right?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm in Jersey, but I work in New York.
Jersey. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in New York.
Okay. Where are you at in New Jersey?
Bloomfield, North Jersey, not far from Giant Stadium. About 15 minutes from Giant Stadium.
Hey, if you ever get the interest to want to start arm wrestling, I don't know if you know about the teams that are in your area, but there are a couple.
No idea.
There's Marcio Barbosa's team Beast Mode, which I think is probably the closest to you.
Okay.
And then there's also North Jersey. I forget what they're going by right now. North Jersey Arm Wrestling. But it was Jim Bryant's team. You're in a really good area. Then there's also the Urban Arm Wrestling League in New York, where I'll be in New York next Saturday. Promoting the Urban Arm Wrestling League. It's going to be Long Island area, Northern Long Island.
Yeah.
They got Dick's. They're working on Dick's as a sponsorship, so they're doing
great
for youth outreach. I'll be there on Saturday, and then there's CNY Arm Wrestlers, which is a little bit further north, and that's my partner James Reed. So shout out to CNY Arm Wrestlers. That's who I do all my tournaments with.
Sounds great, man. Thank you very much. I'll make sure to put your Keystone State Championship link from Facebook in the comment section, and we'll see what we can do from here.
Absolutely.
Paul, thank you very much, sir.
My pleasure.